Okay. Do you want me to do a roll call?
Suppose we may as well properly begin. Oh, an attendee. Hello, Mr. Nelson. Nice to see you. All right. Yeah, let's get started.
Okay,
Right.
Chair Trindade Duramo.
I am.
Trindade Duramo, sorry. Yes. Vice Chair Harris.
Sorry, here.
Commissioner Holden.
Here.
Commissioner Sycamore.
Here.
Commissioner Hanrahan.
Present.
Commissioner Fay is present. Commissioner Lemon Strauss, not here. Commissioner Barrio is not here. I think that is, no, we're missing one more.
Kensick.
Commissioner Kensick not here. Okay, great. All right, so we do have a quorum. Chair, we can begin.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. Happy to see you all. Commissioner Fay, we did get our draft minutes. We are, of course, very chill in the cow, as I have made clear. So I don't think we need, formal motions really to approve minutes and all that kind of stuff. I did put it on here just because Commissioner Fay went through the trouble of drawing up minutes. He sent them out just about an hour ago, so we'll keep them on hand. Just have a look through them, and of course, if you see something wrong, let us know, and we'll just fix it on the back end. But we, as I say, we'll try to run this pretty informally. Which
Just FYI, Chair, we cannot vote on anything here, so it's just a administrative cow meeting. If we did vote on something, it would need to be properly noticed, the agenda shared, all of that, and maybe that was done and I was unaware, but we can't vote on anything, so there's no like motions.
the meeting was noticed and the agenda was included, but I think just like any other committee, we don't really need to be very formal about that kind of thing.
I think it's just better if there's anything voted on, it should just be done in the commission meeting. So that's the legally binding meeting. This is more of a prep, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Just like any other committee, this one is merely advisory and can't make decisions or take actions on its own. So hence the chill zone. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Fay, for the minutes. I'll take a peek. I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance myself. Let's move into announcements. I wanted to, before we get into the preparing the agenda, talk a little bit about initial committee meetings. We've all had our first meetings of our committees. So first, let's just share some gratitude and say thank you for your time and all the organizational effort and the member recruitment that you all did. I know from Karen that the meetings generally went well. Some of them went quite long. I think we'll talk about that as a team. So I don't know if anybody has just any initial comments to offer, but mine is just gratitude. Well done. Thank you to Karen in absentia. Thank you to Raisa as well for when you were able to step in. It was a lot of work getting all the Zooms up and running. So very grateful for her and for all the chairs. Does anybody have any initial thoughts to offer or questions just about the conduct of meetings itself? If not,
Oh yeah, sorry. I do.
sure, go ahead.
No, I thought so. I just wanted to give a quick heads up. This is a great committee. I am very excited to see what we're going to be doing. I think people were a little bit sheepish at first because I think everyone except for maybe two people, former Commissioner Fields and Karen Gall, were more or less new to the process. So I think just trying to get them up to speed, get them to be comfortable. I have at this point I have full roster. I have 10 people on this committee, which is fantastic. And yeah, just trying to make sure that I understand all the rules, and that's a learning curve for me. But other than that, I think this is really fantastic. I'm not sure if you want me to get into anything that we've been doing, or do you want me to hold off on that?
No, let's hold off on that. Just interested
Okay.
in the mechanics, the conduct.
Yeah. So, I mean, other than just maybe like a learning curve for both myself and for the other committee members, and former Commissioner Fields has been really helpful. I think it'll go along really well. I'm excited.
I'm glad, especially for a brand new committee. Wonderful. Also, love your hat. Had to wait for the pixels to resolve to make sure it said something that that was okay. So I actually want to pick up on the point about the member appointments and the number of members on each committee. First of all, just a quick thumbs up from each of you if you can. I assume everybody formally appointed members at the first meeting. Did that go well? Yes, yes, yes. Did we all send lists of the members to Karen for posting on the website? Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, Stephen, maybe. Matt, maybe not. Don't forget to do that because all the committee members' names will be listed on the website. If they submit the like release form, we can put a phone number if they wish or an email address if they wish, but the names will be listed. So make sure Karen has all of those, or Raisa, whoever's supporting your committee.
Would you be possible to just resend that out just to us again so we can redistribute that just once again?
As in
That form, the release form?
a reminder to chairs to submit the names?
No. So could you send us as chairs the release form again so we can send it out to our committee members?
Sure. Yes, can do.
Yes,
We'll
thank
take
you.
that as an action item. So Karen did send me what she understood were the numbers of members on each committee. Remember that we are operating on a 10-member per committee goal, if at all possible. I don't even want to talk to you, Commissioner Holden, about your numbers because I'm just like, it's an embarrassment of riches.
Extra. We had to kick someone off.
How did they draw lots, or how did you do that rock paper scissors tournament?
He was the last person to reply to my email when I was trying to talk to everybody before the first meeting to make sure I understood why they were participating and letting them know how the meeting was going to go for the first one and just what we do as a committee. Because most people are new. There's a couple returning people, but most people, this is the first time that they're participating in anything with the ANC. And my 16th person was just the last person to get back to me. So, but she was cool with it. I said, if anyone has to drop off, she'd be the first person I would ask.
Okay. I'm happy to talk about it a bit more. Good question from Commissioner Harris. If they want to join another committee, we've got them. I would be super amenable to a quick SOP change if we think 20 should be the cap. I mean, I think you're going to have attrition over time.
I think 15 already feels like a lot to wrangle.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should raise the cap. I think it's good to have a cap so we know what we're working towards. And I think like reaching out to all 15 people or 16 people and scheduling phone calls just to make sure that they were still interested took a lot of time actually. So I don't think we need to have 20.
Yep. Fine by me unless anybody has a strong feeling otherwise. Let's not talk about Matthew's nice to have problems anymore. So I got the readout I got from Karen showed, I'll just run through these numbers really quickly. I can share this after. Let me know if they're wrong. So for TPPS, if she said that 15 people applied, 15 people were appointed at the meeting. For ABCR, Stephen, it looks like 8 people applied and you appointed 7 at the meeting. So maybe somebody's still dangling out there. I don't know if you're tracking just to make sure if they need follow-up or a special invitation.
That's correct. Was thinking of following up with the person with the applicant. Haven't done that yet, but I think I will.
Okay, as long as it's on your mind. Jamie, for community engagement, looks like 10 applied and you appointed 7, so maybe still a few more lingering.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, because I forgot to add those other 3. I'll send those out. Thank you.
Very good. Matt, for ED, looks like 7 applied, 6 were appointed.
Yeah, we actually appointed 7, but 1 was absent. So I did send him his appointment email. I did call him in the role, but he was absent. So I'll correct that with Karen, but it'll also hopefully be resolved as we get into the next meeting.
Perfect. For public safety, Francois not here. 5 applied, 4 were appointed by Karen's tally. And for ZPD, 11 applied, 9 were appointed. I'll follow up with Commissioner Kensick about that. 15, 9, 7, 7, 7, 8, amazing. Francois did reach out about public safety, said he was having a bit of trouble recruiting. So Raisa, Jamie, I think it's when we call in the A team. All the committees could, except for Commissioner Holden's, could use a couple more. Would love to go for 10 each, seriously. Public safety especially needs some pumping up. I think Commissioner Barrio also has a problem with the 30% cap. I think most of his committee members are from his SMD, so he'd rather not kick anybody off for that reason. So I think it'd be better if we just recruited in a hustle and got a couple more people on the committee. Maybe Commissioner Holden's left over. What's the representation across SMDs? I don't have, by committee, I don't know. I don't have the breakdown. When we get there, in fact, it's indicated in their application form, so we could do the math pretty quickly on that just to see how it spreads out. In fact, I like spreadsheets. I'll do that.
Yeah,
See
I
how it
think
goes.
that's important. I think the numbers are certainly important, but if there are, no offense, Commissioner Holden, but if like all like of your members are from 1B07, that's not really, I know that's not the case, but if they're all from 1B07 or that's like that, or like for ABCR, they're all from, a certain SMD, it doesn't make a lot of sense to continue to recruit. It makes more sense to focus on the individual commissioners who we need representation from those SMDs to get members in.
That makes a ton of sense.
Okay, Matt, you and I can work together maybe, I guess, huh? And do the math. With your
Yeah.
with your
Who
secretary.
doesn't love a spreadsheet in the middle of the week?
Okay, fun. What fun. Cool. Thank you guys. So that's great. Numbers are looking good. I'm glad. Thank you for doing the appointing. Don't forget to send Karen the emails and the permission forms, which I'll resend later. So the only other thing I'm going to talk about in terms of committees then is just like committee management questions that you may have or best practices if anyone wants to share. I didn't attend the committee meetings aside from Commissioner Faye's because it was the special NMA meeting. But I did see when they uploaded to YouTube, so I knew basically what time the meetings ended, because I get an alert from YouTube when a video is uploaded to our channel. And I think a 2.5 or 3 hour committee meeting is generally something we want to discourage. Again, if it's the NMA thing and there are 75 people in the room because you're Matt Fay and you're popular like that, it's great. I think if it's a routine committee meeting, we really, really cannot go that long without a seriously good reason. And, people start to drop off. The votes that are taken toward the end of the meetings will often barely have a quorum. And there's just an accessibility question, the committee meetings are more democratic when they're more accessible to more people. And I think the way to achieve that is to run a tighter ship. If you need to impose speaking limits, a time limit, a 2-minute limit, just like we do at main commission, each person can only speak once or twice per topic. You can be flexible about them. You don't have to be super rigid to the point of being dictatorial, but the meeting is not accessible if it's dominated by a couple loud voices, and it's not accessible to constituents if it runs for 2.5 hours and they have to go make dinner for their kids. I think pretty quickly people are going to get the impression that they just don't have the space in their lives for a 3-hour meeting every month. So I think a lot of that is down to timing. Kind of setting a goal of a 1-hour meeting, I think, is smart. If you need to, again, put time limits per speaker or per item, like we do again in the commission, how we say 2 minutes for announcements, maybe 3 minutes in general debate, because there's more substance, it's meatier to discuss. Think about those things, and I hope maybe you guys can share some best practices now, especially returning commissioners, about how you think best to achieve that.
Yeah, so
Go ahead.
I think an hour is a goal, but unrealistic for zoning and alcohol in particular, because people care about those the most, I think. Historic pres zoning, all the land use issues can get contentious, all the liquor license and cannabis licenses can get contentious. So trying to avoid that is good, but it's difficult. I mean, those were especially liquor licenses when I was on DuPont was often the most intense part of the whole thing, which I'm sure U Street 1B, it could also be too. So I would encourage that. So like I had a case in front of ABCR, this week, and I tried to do a lot of leg work in advance, which I think paid off. So I would just encourage all the other commissioners, like if you have a case at one of the committees, to make sure that you've talked to the applicant and try to do the legwork, because then I think hopefully it will help the committee go better.
Agree. Commissioner Harris?
I think it sounds very nice, Chair Trinidad Drama, but that's like very unrealistic for these committees for an hour. I think maybe some of them, but you know, I'm helping Commissioner Hanrahan for ABCR, and that is, and also knowing what goes on in ZPD, sometimes what's in front of economic development. That's just like, that is, you know, I mean this respectfully, but that's just, I wouldn't apply that. That's just not going to happen. But I think there's some tactical things underneath of, you know, setting the time limits. I think that can be helpful. You know, I talked with Commissioner Hanrahan of, you know, how to organize the agenda of, you know, having the new licenses first. You know, having maybe things, you can have things on the agenda that you just don't talk about, just as an update. But I would advise committee chairs, like, don't aim for an hour. Like, that's great if you can do that. But I would also say it might not be beneficial for community members, because the hour will go very quickly, just based on typically what's in front of a lot of committees. And you're not really doing what's in front of the committee service by treating it with kind of time limits. I think, you know, it's going to get the ABCR committee, when more renewals come up, which it's happening, and new licenses. You know, unfortunately, Commissioner Hanrahan, and I will help you, and I will be on it. Commissioner Barrio will be on it, because we have a lot of liquor licenses. But these meetings will likely be at least 2 hours, if not 3, just from the number of licenses at stake. And I think Commissioner Holden brings up a good point of doing some of that legwork and letting you know ahead of time of, hey, based on what we know of these establishments, like, this shouldn't be an issue. But yeah, I wouldn't feel, there's just no way it can be reduced down to an hour, at least for ABCR.
Yeah, of course, when there are licenses, definitely, but you know, there's still a way to run a tight ship, even with that type of business on the agenda, which I'd like to have a think about. I mean, I don't want to comment on any committee specifically. It was our first meetings in the past month. I think generally they were well run. But even then, and there weren't that many business items on them. Some of them ran quite long, I think, just because there were no speaking limits. People talk for 3, 4, 5 minutes, and the same speakers over and over again. So some of those things, I think it'd be good for us to just be mindful of and figure out how to make them work best. Commissioner Hanrahan.
Hey, yes, hearing a lot of ABCR related commentary. Yeah, I think it was a bit of a, you know, there's a learning curve, I think, but I think even just doing one meeting, I'm already getting better sense of the process. And I think once I have a better sense of the process, I will kind of learn about, you know, where our comments are being helpful and direct, and where we're just kind of tangenting on things that we can't control. But I'm going to try and talk to the committee the next meeting and just say, let's try and shoot for, you know, 2 hours goal, and just try and maybe also implement a timer rule. I don't know if any other committee chairs are implementing timer rules, but I had maybe a concept of doing like your second item as a timer. If you're speaking on the same item again for the second time, you will have a timer, and hopefully to have buy-in from the whole committee at large, so committee members aren't putting timers on each other as well. Yeah.
Question, I'm kind of sorry to ask this about Commissioner Kensick's meeting because he's not here. But one of the things that he did that I thought was really thoughtful was inviting a guest speaker to talk about a topic that was really important for the zoning planning team to to hear about. And it helped to build a bit of a relationship, and it helped to educate people who were on the committee, and it took some time. And so I'd be curious to know from, folks who have done this before, when you do have to do some kind of education, kind of just what are some helpful hints around bringing in someone to do it? Do you try to get kind of a 30-minute early like we do? Do you do it kind of on a different day? I thought it was really thoughtful that he brought in someone, and I know it kind of extended the meeting time. So I'm sure that I'm going to have to do that as we get into the OP work on the comp plan to do kind of an education and then a discussion. So I just would love to hear from others about how they've done that really well.
Yeah, can I actually respond? That's great, Commissioner Fay. You said that because I plan on doing the same thing for whatever month we're working on, whatever meeting prior to that. I plan on bringing on those community members to talk about these issues. So what I'm actually doing is I'm setting up a template and just saying, hey, these are the topics I want you to touch. Who are you? What do you do? What's your benefit to the community? And just kind of give them an outline and say whatever you want here in this section for under 5 minutes, and then we can move on, because that's the type of thing I really want people to know, is that what's going on, what's going to be happening next within the community outreach. So I think maybe putting in those parameters prior to with those speakers might be of some help. That's where I'm coming from anyway, because I want to keep mine as close to under an hour as possible. Sometimes I'm sure we'll go like an hour and a half, but for the most part, I think we can go under an hour for all of our committee meetings, which, I mean, obviously I don't have as much, with ABR and all that red tape, but yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Maybe final
yeah.
comment so we can move on.
So I would just try to schedule it, if you want a guest speaker or something, on a light agenda night, like economic development and community engagement. Your schedules are a little more flexible than some of the like transportation or CPD or ABCR that have like regulatory things we're supposed to be responding to. So I think like you could have, the first half of the meeting could be a guest speaker, and then the second half could be business or something. It would be harder for ABCR because there's always licenses. But with zoning, it's like if you have a light month, yeah, I think ask someone to come. I also think like if we're having an issue on one of the committees where maybe some like additional presentation or something would be helpful for people, using the time at the regular meeting is also helpful, because we always need guest speakers at the regular meeting too. So if we had a regular meeting guest speaker that also touched on an issue that one of the committees is happening, I think that would be an appropriate use of that time slot.
Yep, I think that's great. And I actually know that Alan already has a recommendation for another guest speaker for his next meeting. So maybe we try to convert that guest speaker into a commission-wide one. So that's great, Matt. Matthew, great suggestion.
Okay, I think this is good. Let's stay in touch about it, please. Keep sharing best practices. Be thoughtful about your agendas, just to make sure everyone feels that it's efficient, and that even if it is a 2-hour meeting, that it was worth it, and a lot of work got done, and the floor time was shared equitably among members. The only other item I have under announcements, wanted to actually invite Commissioner Fay to give a little bit of an update about the public forum that ED committee held on the NMA proposal and the bid concept. I wanted to underscore the importance of these meetings. That one was very well attended. As far as I understand it, Commissioner Fay will correct me if I'm wrong, he's looking at holding 2 more of them in March. I don't know if, well, of course, one of them will be at the ED committee, so that date is set. I think the other one, maybe the date is not yet set. But please keep promoting these in your communications with constituents. Raisa and Matt and I will be working to promote them on the newsletter and the website. I think it's the most important commission-wide collective goal we have in the next couple of months is getting this decision right. So Matt, if you want to talk a little bit about that and what's the schedule ahead so people can speak with their folks about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go through the really quick background. I think all of you have seen. If you haven't, let me know. I'll send it around. But all of you have seen the Neighborhood Management Authority bill that was presented or proposed by Councilmember Nadeau to the council January 27th thereabouts. It is a fairly wide-ranging neighborhood management authority that would cover essentially the same area, both commercial and residential, that is included in the performance parking zone. And so, it's a big deal for the community in part because there are lots and lots of folks who are out there saying, gosh, we really need something. And there's lots and lots of folks who are asking the right question, which is this the thing we need? And so what we did is went out, we recruited very aggressively, worked with Alex Padro on Shaw Main Streets to reach out to all of the folks that he works with. Miguel and I met with District Bridges as well. I reached out directly to a lot of the business owners that I know, and Miguel did the same. I think many of you probably shared the information. But we had about 80 people who attended. I'd say it was probably a pretty good mix, probably more 60-40 of business versus residential. So definitely skewed on the business side, which makes sense because the business folks are the ones who are really going to be more impacted. And so very robust discussion, very thoughtful, questions that were asked. We had two parallel discussions that were going on. Both of them, kind of reflected similar views. One was the typed or written Q&A, which I have, downloaded and have available. The other was the questions that were asked and then answered in the meeting. Generally speaking, around the NMA, the big questions that people asked were, what is it going to do? So, you've got a broader description of services. They wanted to know kind of specifically what is it that they were going to do to make an impact in the community and the neighborhood. The other big question was around finances. So, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to raise money? Budget questions, et cetera. Then there were a lot of questions just kind of kicking the tires and pressure testing. Why this concept versus other concepts? What are the guarantees of success? How long does the NMA last? What else does it look like kind of in the city? And so where we are with next steps is I am finalizing that I need to go through with Chair Trindade Duramo before I send, but a very detailed set of notes to David Meny in the council member's office with questions that we are looking for him to answer and then to come back to the community and answer. And then the probably the last third of the meeting, because a lot of people had asked as we were setting up the meeting and inviting folks, people said, well, what about a bid? Like, does a bid work here? And so we invited a group that is, looking at the possibility of developing a bid in roughly the same area to present on kind of what a bid is. They didn't put a counter proposal forward. They didn't say, hey, this is another option that we're putting on the table. They said, we've done bids elsewhere. The bid presenter was Quadrangle Development, which already does have a fairly large footprint in the U Street area. They talked about what a bid is, what they have achieved success elsewhere, how they approach the work, et cetera. And so we're going to be asking them to come back as well and to answer some additional questions that were raised of them. And so we're going to be moving the process forward. We may do, to Miguel's point, we may do 2 hearings in March, but given what David Meny said about the timing and the fact that they probably weren't going to be able to take any kind of action in April, we may have a little bit of time, so we should probably talk about that this week. But without question, we are going to definitely have the next big hearing on March 20th. And I think we've got a very good focus to be able to have a very productive couple of hours with folks and to be able to come out the other side with some insight. I think the thing that Miguel is wrestling with is whether we need to take a vote as a commission in our April meeting on something, a position one way or the other, or formalizing additional questions where we may not have gotten the answers that we've asked for. And so I think that is the thing that is on both of our minds as it relates to timing and engagement and the number of touch points. So let me pause there. Miguel, anything else that you'd add? And then, of course, questions that folks may have.
Just a contextual point that we're coordinating with 1A and 1E principally, also 4C, two, whatever, a couple other commissions, but principally 1A and 1E. We haven't heard definite plans, but they've been talking about holding committee meetings of their own. I'm assuming they're going to. We're trying to see all of those as part of a series. So the questions that were asked in 1B's committee meeting will hopefully be answered before 1A holds a committee meeting, and they can kind of take the ball from there and ask follow-up questions. And then hopefully that's before Matt has his next economic development committee meeting, right? So there's a sense of continuity. It's not 3 or 4 separate conversations happening. It's all one. And so Matt and I have been meeting with Chair Sherman and Chair Footer to keep that conversation pretty unified. We are thinking about co-writing resolutions. They won't be identical because, of course, there are particular concerns on U Street versus Columbia Heights, which is also included in the NMA proposal with a separate authority for itself. But hopefully we'll have substantially similar resolutions. We were thinking about aiming to debate and pass them in April, but I think that's still subject to some responsiveness to the timeline in the council, as Matt indicated. So that's all I would add. Any questions or comments quickly on that one, Vice Chair Harris?
I don't think it would make sense to pass a resolution in April if the hearing is in March. It seems like we would have to vote on something, at least some groundwork, at least if we're in support of something like this at our March meeting.
Is it the council hearing or just ANC meetings?
Is it the committee meeting or is it it's just the committee hearing?
I think so.
Yeah, it's our ANC committee hearing. So my understanding is that Chair Mendelson, when he received the bill, broke it into, and I don't know the process that goes through. You guys probably know better than I. Broke it into 2 different committees. So there are 2 different council committees that need to hear it and to be able to give feedback on it before it would advance to the full council. And when we pressed David to help give us some transparency into the timeline, he said that it was unlikely that it would be taken up before the end of April.
Okay, so we do have some time, but we should also figure out why, like what components were broken up into the committees, because, or what parts of the bill were broken up based on the committee, because there might be one that's not relevant for the ANC to weigh in on, or if we need separate resolutions based on what they're hearing on. So we probably need to understand, yeah, the breakdown and then answer it from there. Sorry, I was confused. So they haven't announced the individual council committees have not announced when they are going to talk about or have a hearing on this bill, correct?
That is correct. They have not.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time. We should also be aware if there's anything though related to the budget on this that we might want to weigh in on or have some thoughts of at least saying that we're in support of this or not. And we probably need to vote on that next month.
That is part of this conversation you're having, Commissioner Fay, with David Meny about the timing. And did we clarify already that they didn't expect anything would move? I think he said like before the budget. I don't know about as part of the budget, if there's a component that they're intending to, like the seed funding or whatever.
Yeah, I think we need to revisit that. Vice Chair Harris is raising a good point, and I think, Sable, part of what I'm learning is that you can ask one question and get one answer, and then ask a slightly different question and get a slightly different answer. So I think your question is more precise maybe than the question that we were asking or that I was asking. So I will go back to David and ask the question about the budget. But I would agree, right? If there is going to be some kind of budgetary element to this that has to get heard by the council in March or April, then we would need to vote on something. We would need to vote on something in our March meeting, which is only next week. My big takeaway from the meeting that we had, last week was that the community has too many questions that they're big questions. They have too many questions for us to responsibly say that we vote in support of it. At this point, the vote would be, hey, we really need a lot more information before we can, get behind this. And so I'm hoping that David walked away with that same sense, and also with some precision around what questions really did need to get answered for him to be able to thoughtfully advance this.
Yeah, we can also, and sorry, Commissioner Sycamore, we can also do something loose to vote and support, not saying we support the NMA or a bid. We just support more resources around, U Street and other adjoining or abutting kind of areas, because we see an issue with, cleanliness, we see an issue with crime, whatever it is, like it can be a loose kind of support thing. So at least that doesn't go, we at least recognize it if at least if something is coming in front of or something is included in the budget.
Yeah, great.
The April meeting may still, I mean, obviously in a week, we're not going to sort through any of those issues. At the April meeting, I assume is still fine. It's only a couple of days after the mayor will release her budget proposal, and then the council moves, into its budget process. So I think that time it makes a lot of sense if we have a reasonably coherent collective sense of our position by then. Commissioner Sycamore, I think maybe a final comment on this one.
Yeah, just one quick question. What was your general sense, either by demographic or as a whole? What was the general sense of people supporting, not supporting this? And was it a business heavy? I know you said it was business heavy, but you got a sense of what the public felt versus businesses, or as a whole collective?
I think it would be, I'm going to give kind of what I think is the right answer, and then I'll give you just a couple of examples. I think the right answer is to say that it is too early to say that we have a strong community position either for or against. Then I would say that the community was very outspoken about part of what Sable said. We need something, right? We need cleanliness, we need safety, we need investment. So there was a very strong sense that we needed something. Then there were a lot of questions about structure. There were a lot of questions about how quickly the different options could be stood up. And then there was a strong desire to get more information. So I think what we've got is a very engaged community that wants to see some investment and some additional energy put into the corridor. But a community that at this point is saying, we don't know what the right solution is yet, and we'll be there next month to get more answers.
Okay, thank you all very much. Commissioner Fay, you and I have much to discuss. So let's switch to the formal reason that we're here, which is to prepare the draft commission agenda for next month. I think they should move pretty quickly. I don't have anything big to place on the agenda. The guest speaker has been resolved. Thank you, Commissioner Fay. We'll have a DC water representative whom we have scheduled for 6:40 p.m. So we'll have a little bit of a soft start next week. And I wanted to just raise a question. I think there was a sense that even even though we went through this last time and set speaking times for most of the sections of our agenda, out of a sense of deference, we did not set a speaking time for the council member, executive, and community announcements. And I think there was a feeling that those went a bit long last time. So we wanted to sort of take a quick temperature check and see what do people think is a respectful and efficient suggested speaking limit for that section of the agenda. And I'm gonna kind of suggest 3 minutes. Tell me if you feel like that's too low, too high. Commissioner Holden, what's your vibe?
Yeah, I would for mayor's office and council updates, I would be okay with giving them a slightly longer amount of time, not like a lot of time, but like longer time, and then like community announcements being a little bit shorter than theirs, just because those are direct updates from the other branches or whatever.
5 minutes for those and 2 for community. Give me
Maybe
some.
I would be okay with 5, but we need to actually like try to enforce it.
Sure. Commissioner Sycamore.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think 5 minutes for the council member and for the mayor. I think that's good. And then the discretion of the chair if they need to keep going. If it's a really hot issue or there's a lot of questions on a certain thing from the community, I think that's fine. And I think for the community, 3 or 4 minutes. I'm maybe being a little generous here, but stick with 3. All right. 2 minutes. Oh, you guys are mean. All
We don't really
right.
get a lot of them anyway, so that's actually not that
Engagement.
hard.
That's true.
Commissioner Harris, go ahead.
I think, yeah, I think community, it's like you could leave it at 3, but like they're not gonna, it's like kind of rare if we get things. I think commissioner announcements there should be a limit on that because any announcements, like most of us are committee chairs, y'all should be at least doing that then, or if there's like something relevant, like a cleanup, you should be letting Commissioner Sycamore know for community like engagement. So most of that should be done in the committee areas. So I would say that needs like a limit. But I think the council ones, I think as long as you give them a heads up that they have between 3 and 5 minutes, 5 minutes max, they should limit that. I don't think though, we're not encompassing like the questions from commissioners in those 5 minutes. You
Oh.
aren't?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, because then at that point, like I'm sure you would give extra time if there was needed, or it would already be acknowledged that kind of extra time would be needed. But yeah, I think giving them the lower end of, or maybe not, they'd probably still take up 5 minutes.
I'm thinking
But
actually 3 to 5 because it does give a sense that like 5 is the max. Because if you just say
Yeah.
5, like, oh yeah, 5.5 is fine.
But they have many other meetings. They have emails, all of that. Like I think 5 is even pushing it. But yeah, I think just letting them know ahead of time. And maybe the potential too of any updates that they have, we could share it in our newsletter as well. If they're worried about not getting it out.
Okay, so let's go with the 3 to 5 range for the council member and the executive, Matt, and for the community, let's put 2, and we'll consider it a soft 2, especially because there's no Q&A usually for that. So let's roll with that and see how it goes. Thank you all.
Great.
Next item is business from the executive committee. The only thing that I wanted to clarify was with Treasurer Lemon Strauss that we have the wording of the QFR amendment correct. So Matt, can you jot down for the 3 of us to circle up tomorrow and make sure it's on the agenda correctly and we square away whatever happened with that. Business arising from committees. I wanted to do a quick check to see who has sent committee minutes to Karen or Raisa so far. Oh, Steven's grimace was legendary. Oh,
I
was
thought
just-
this meeting was going to talk about that. I don't know.
okay, please don't forget. We do need to put them in the agenda packet tomorrow night, if at all possible. So I think Commissioner Holden sent them in already. No, it wasn't you. Somebody did. There was one in. Commissioner Sycamore. Oh my God. Right out the gate, of course. Don't slack over time now. I don't want you to just like do a strong showing at the beginning. Please send them tonight or latest by tomorrow evening to Commissioner Fay and Karen, please. We did the NMA public forum already, and the only other thing that was suggested in advance was Commissioner Hanrahan's question about the arts overlay, which is sticky and technical. Let's dive into it.
Sorry, can I pause really quickly? So on the agenda, we talked through the structural element, right, which is the time limitations. In terms of agenda items, other than the prior meeting minute amendment, do we have any other agenda items?
I just want to make sure that my settlement agreement is going to be on the agenda. I have one of the items from the ABCR meeting was a dispensary in my district, and he's already signed a settlement agreement. He actually even signed 2 pages, one with that day's date, and then one at the meeting date. He's all over it. So I think hopefully that'll be just a quick, very minor item, hopefully.
Okay, great. Are there other, I guess I'll have to reach out to Kenzik and find out. I know that they had a ZPD discussion on a particular zoning case. So let's check with him and see if that zoning case also needs to get there.
Patrick Nelson in the Q&A.
Say that again, sorry.
Sorry, Patrick Nelson put it in the Q&A. There is an item from ZPD that will need to vote, which I assume is that HPRB.
Great, thank you. So Jamie, you got your hand up.
Yeah, so we'll be voting on the Vermont Avenue cleanup crew and the beautification project. We submitted for the grant that they submitted for the $500 grant. So we'll need to vote on that. And as far as I knew, I thought we had to vote on the photographer, but that's not the case. That was just an executive decision. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Other than that, I think that's all I need to work on or vote. We need to vote on.
Okay. And sorry, is the $500 amount conforming with our standard operating procedures and bylaws?
As far as I can tell, yes. We want to give it a double check, but as far as I can tell, yes. We've given this grant every year
So
for the past few years.
just as a heads up, and also the photographer, I believe that was already in our budget, so that's why we don't need to vote on that. But we probably need to be careful of phrasing. So this technically isn't it's not a grant. I think it's like a sponsorship. Just because
Thank
when
you.
people hear the word, sorry, Commissioner Sycamore, I just know when people hear the word grant, I think it starts it's like a little bit more of a formalized process, and I think a little bit more money. So we certainly can't word it in the agenda as a grant because it's not a grant. I think beyond our own SOPs and bylaws, I think it's important that Commissioner Lemon Strauss at least vocalizes the making sure that we are in the parameters of what OANC has. So it can follow our bylaws and SOPs, but that doesn't really matter because it's up to OANC. So I'm pretty sure it probably does, especially if we've done this in the past. But we just need to make it clear with Vermont Avenue, and they already know, like I know Jeffrey knows. But to say, okay, we're only like we can like this money can only go to like tables. So I think that's the only clear point, like it can't be food or any of that. But yeah, I'm sure he's already on this. And it's I don't want to say small amount, but it's a amount that we can keep track of and be okay with. But yeah, we probably shouldn't call it a grant. I think it's a sponsorship, but I'm assuming it's the same. We did this last year, right, Commissioner Sycamore? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. I wasn't aware, so thank you for that. I have the directives for everything as far as finances are concerned from OANC directly from the director. So when we did look at that, I made sure I sent that off to all of our committee members beforehand so they could review it. And then everyone, as far as I could tell, and from what everyone else saw, it does still it complies with OANC as well on their guidance.
Great. So yeah, I think Sybil's point is good. Let's get Aaron to kind of sign off on it.
That's great. Thank you, Commissioner Harris.
And then I have one kind of item question, which is I apologize. This is exactly not how I want to do things because I meant to email Stephen earlier this week. So when he raised the question about the arts overlay, I actually pulled the zoning regs on the arts overlay, and I can send it around to folks because there's a couple of sections that make it pretty digestible. But we had voted on a protest. We'd voted on a protest at our February meeting regarding a alcohol license on like the 900 block of U Street. We protested it for all of the right reasons, which were kind of noise, etc. But and there's a separate layer to it, which is that from an arts overlay perspective, and the 50%, that block is already at 64% of food and eating establishments. And so the question I was going to ask is, do we want to add an additional letter to our agenda that would need to go, I guess, to zoning to say that their approval of a food and alcohol establishment at that location actually violates the zoning regs as they're written today. So again, I didn't want to make it a big deal. It's something I should have taken care of with Stephen offline. But I just kind of, as I looked at it just the other day, I wasn't sure if we needed to take an additional step on that particular request.
I mean, it's certainly not our role to catch something like that. So what I don't understand, and I don't know if Commissioner Harris is about to chime in on this point, is is where where the Office of Zoning would have been involved. Who, I don't know what the mechanism is that needs to review that. I mean, it's certainly obviously not something ABCA does or ABCR does, and it would be a bit unusual for, I think, for us to have caught this first and flag it. What's your read on the interagency process there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not up to us to catch it. I think it's a good catch, and it's something that we can mark in the protest of, Frank Chauvin loves this, of over concentration. However, we as an ANC have written, I think at least during my time, 2 or 3 letters to both ABCA and zoning about this. Again, it's not up to us. Like, I think, it's good on us that we caught it. I'm sure Patrick is going to chime in a little bit on this, but I think, there's not a whole lot we can do. We can say again in our protest that it's over concentration. We we counted the squares, all of that, but there's not much other than, us, pushing another letter, another resolution on this, because again, it's not up to us to provide kind of that oversight. And frankly, they likely won't do anything about it. Because it already has gone and passed by them. I think it is a compelling matter though for a protest, because it's like we read this, we looked at this is technically a part of the over concentration. And I guess this is frustrating because it's like we can't really do anything more than what we've already done. It's I think we missed the not us in particular, but we missed the ball in this for any oversight on this for kind of agencies to bring it up. Like, it is a highly kind of technical matter, a highly technical and hyper local matter. But I think that would have been the avenue for us to raise something like this. I'm not saying we shouldn't, like we should raise it. But I don't think there's anything to be done about it. I know that Frank wants to talk about it a lot. He brings it up every meeting. But we've done what we can. And we can keep writing letters and doing that, but there's not much more that we can do aside from protesting and raising it as like an issue there.
Can I ask Commissioner Holden, if you don't mind my violating your privilege? I want to bring in Patrick Nelson, who has his hand up. I just wanted to ask quickly if was this discussed at the ZPD committee meeting? I don't believe so, but can you correct me if I'm wrong on that one?
No, it was not discussed at that meeting, but if you don't want me to speak on it, I won't. But there's a lot of history here that you guys don't understand, and Sable kind of addressed some of the issue, but it's a lot more complicated than that. And I don't know if you want to take a few minutes to understand the logistics of how all that's working, but it's not as cut and dry as it sounds.
Okay, I think that's sufficient for us at Cow. Commissioner Holden, you want to go ahead?
Yes. So when we say send to zoning or send a letter to zoning or talk to zoning, I just want to, for anyone who doesn't know, like, it wouldn't be the Office of Zoning or the Zoning Commission or the BZA. It would be
Office of Planning.
it would, well, yeah, it would be the Office of the Zoning Administrator. So if it's already in the regulations, in the arts overlay, it has this percentage on the frontage about how many liquor licenses there can be. That is decided by zoning and Office of Planning, and the Zoning Commission votes on it. But the enforcement of it is through the Office of the Zoning Administrator, which is a separate office. So we can flag it for them. And like, they do a bad job of approving things and interpreting the regulations, and also enforcing things. So it's like, that's the avenue for something like this if we think it's actually a problem, because the zoning regulations already decided. And Sable was right, we can't weigh in on that further unless there's a text amendment or something. Yep. To the commission, to the zoning regulations. But the Office of the Zoning Administrator could, they approve stuff all the time that maybe shouldn't be approved. So we could
I mean, cognizant of the time, I don't want to go into the technical details here. I don't know. Why don't we do an email about this and check in with Commissioner Kensick about if there's anything pending in committee about it, and understand it a little bit better. I don't remember if this was the case where there was a question about the frontage being measured on the ground floor versus a slightly raised floor where the business was conducted. Is that this case? Okay, so there's a lot of technical stuff here that we need to understand. So let's move it to email if that's okay.
The other
Uh,
thing, I would include former commissioner and committee member Frank Chauvin on this, just so he knows that we are paying attention. I would say the other thing that might be worthy is addressing this as it relates to the comp plan. I think
Yeah.
there's something there that can be addressed and that can also help. I think it's worth letting Frank know and driving his energy towards that. But as it relates to the liquor license that's happening and the protest there, we need to follow that process, and we can affect more change through there than we can through this technical issue.
Okay, thank you, guys. Let's go really quickly through the consultants' reports. I have a couple of notes from Karen. I'm going to read them very fast. She sent a couple bullet points. One is that the committee webinar sessions have been created in Zoom for the full year for all 6 committees. Everything's posted to the website with calendars and registration links. Please take a double check. I don't know if all committee chairs have double checked that no meetings fall on holidays. Please do that too when you go through, but go on the website this evening if you can. Click through the calendar, make sure everything looks good for your committee, please. Each committee page has a link to the individual committee YouTube playlist, and all the recordings of the first committee meetings were posted within 24 hours, as I mentioned before. Each committee page also has a link to committee minutes. Those are posted as soon as you submit them. Thank you to Public Safety and Community Engagement. There's our tracker. Well done, guys. Commissioner Hanrahan and I have set up an ABCR tracker that is posted on the website, and calendar invites are sent to the individual commissioners when there's a protest deadline for an establishment in your SMD. Keep checking your Outlook calendars, please, especially if you have Outlook on your phone. It should ping you. And a few reminders from Karen. Don't forget, when you're running a committee meeting, you log in the 1B Zoom account, not your individual Zoom account. Don't use the link that comes an hour beforehand in your email. Log in with the SSO on the 1B account. I think everybody did that correctly the first time around. Karen will not be in your committee meetings in March as she was in February. That's not a regular part of her life. So make sure you know how to run Zoom and ask any questions early if you need help, the teacher coming out in her. And her final note, keep working to get committee members to fill out the form about information on the website so we can post contact information. Yes, saying it again, so I remember. I will distribute it as soon as this meeting is over. Raisa, do you have any updates for us before we slide away for the day?
Everything Karen said, do that.
That's what I have tattooed on my hand now, actually.
Yeah. Nothing for today, thank you.
Okay, happy to see you here. If nothing else, we can keep it to a happy 60 minutes. Okay, let's go for now. I'll see you all next week. Thank you so much for this. You're the best team ever created.
Same
Have a
well.
good night. Thank you for the support, Raisa.
Bye, Al.
Bye.